Hey, everybody. It is Trags, Mike Petralia, back with you on this snowed-in edition of the Jungle Roar Post-Championship Sunday podcast. I'm joined by my good friend and typical colleague, I'd say, normal colleague here on the Jungle Roar pod. That would be Richard Skinner of Local 12 and Local12.com. We know him better as Skinny. And they want to remind everybody that this podcast, the Jungle Roar podcast, is brought to you by our great friends at Prize Picks. All right, Skinny, we know who will match up in Super Bowl 60. That will be the Seattle Seahawks against the New England Patriots. It's a rematch of a Super Bowl I covered 11 years ago in Glendale, Arizona. Of course, it ended on Malcolm, the Russell Wilson ill-fated pass to the end zone on second and goal down at the 2-yard line. Of course, it was picked off by Malcolm Butler, and the Patriots had their fourth Super Bowl title. The dynamics of this one, Skinny, are going to be a little bit different, I think. First of all, the quarterbacks are a different story coming into this game. You have a reclamation project, a guy who's really rebuilt his career in Sam Darnold against a second-year MVP caliber candidate in one Drake May, who survived the best he could in the snow on Sunday in Denver, beating the Broncos 10-7 again on the road. What are your initial thoughts of Super Bowl 60?
Well, apparently this was preordained because the NFL sent out a tweet back on September the 5th that had Sam Darnold and Drake May at the front of a line of an illustration going to get the Lombardi trophy. I mean, this has been in the fix the whole time, right, Mike?
Oh, here we go. You believe in conspiracy? You got your tin hat on? Is that what you're telling me, Skinny?
I do. No,
it's glowing.
To your original point.
Yeah.
I think it does show that a lot of times quarterbacks just get drafted by the wrong team. I get why they do it. Like, there was no reason for the Bengals not to take Joe Burrow first overall. And to their credit, they built enough around him to make that Super Bowl run and an AFC Championship run. But the New York Jets didn't do that with Sam Darnold. They were a disaster before they took him. They were a disaster after they took him. They were a disaster when he played. They've been a disaster since he's played. And so sometimes it's just a complete wrong situation for a guy. Goes to Minnesota. Great for the most part. Bombs in the playoffs. Minnesota said, I think we're good. And I get it because you thought, okay, maybe we just got the most out of him. We squeezed every ounce of the juice we could out of him in the regular season. Maybe got lucky a little, had a great supporting cast. And gosh darn it, if Seattle doesn't say, you know what? We got a defense ready to win. We got a running game ready to win. This is the best guy on the open market that can help us get ready to win at the right price. And then the Drake May situation is complete opposite. It's a guy on a rookie contract that remember, he did not start his first game last year because they played the Bengals in Cincinnati, and Jacoby Brissett started that game. And eventually they went to Drake May. And they didn't win a lot of games, but they figured out, we got something in this guy. We have a lot of money to spend in the offseason. Let's get the draft right. Let's get free agency right. And they did it almost every turn. Now, they've had a couple of injuries from some of those guys. And it does show you, and I think that would be the encouraging thing if I'm a Bengals fan, that sometimes it only takes one offseason to get it right. If you got a lot of pieces around them and you got some money to spend, it doesn't take a lot to turn this around. You know, Seattle just barely missed the playoffs last year, went 10-7, but it was a step forward. And then this year they take a bigger step forward. Voila. New England went from, what were they?
4-13 the last two seasons.
I was going to say, 3-14 stuck in my head, but 4-13. 4-13 to being, and I think all season long they started to prove we're the best team in the AFC, and I think they were. Now, I think that's a little damning praise. I'm not sure how good the AFC was this year. It was competitive. But bottom line is, they were probably the best team in the AFC. Do they have flaws? They sure do. They don't pass protect as well as you'd like.
Prepare.
But it's a good team, man. It's a really good team. And so, yeah, I think these are two fun teams to watch simply because you can do this stuff in 1 year, Mike. You can fix this in 1 year very quickly.
That is, to me, one of the best lessons for best things for Bengal fans to hope for going into next season is that you can turn around a really bad season if you handle the draft right, if you handle free agency right, and you get all your players healthy. You can turn it around in one season. There will be Bengal fans who say, yeah, those are two of the three issues, But the final issue is the coaching. And they're not so sure that Zach Taylor is the guy. I happen to think he is. I think if you give Zach Taylor a representative defense, a playmaking defense, he'll figure it out on the offensive side. And I think this team can rise again.
I do too. And I was watching Good Morning Football this morning. I don't watch it every morning. I'm in love with Jamie Erdahl. Who isn't in love with Jamie Erdahl? But I watch it some mornings.
Yeah.
And this morning, I they all made a good point of, do you think Tennessee's not regretting letting Mike Vrabel go? Like, I get they felt like we've tapped out with this guy, right? The year the Bengals beat them, they were the number one seed in the playoffs that year, and would have hosted Kansas City if they beat the Bengals. It said the Bengals beat them, have to go to Kansas City and win to go to the Super Bowl. But Mike Vrabel is a winner. I mean, he knows how to build winners. Maybe it was time for a change, but sometimes that's not the right thing to do. I get it. It's a fine line. Like here in Cincinnati, I wrote a column last week that, and this was more pointed still at Duke Tobin than Zach Taylor, but it was striking to watch Buffalo fire a head coach and some other teams make changes, and the Bengals just sit on their hands at status quo and go, no, we're good. But sometimes status quo, as much as you got to swallow hard, is the right decision. And boy, did New England luck out when Tennessee decided to move on from Mike Vrabel. They swooped in, got him. He's been a good coach almost from Jump Street. He's done a great job with that team because I don't think it's a great roster. I think it's a really good roster. It's built in his mode. He's got a quarterback that does a lot of things that he likes, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. But yeah, it's one of those where these two head coaches have kind of done it in different ways. Like Mike McDonald had a better roster. Didn't make the playoffs the first year. There were even some rumblings of, is this the right? Come on now. And then this year he takes him to a Super Bowl, and Mike Vrabel quickly takes this team to a Super Bowl. Mike Vrabel's always been a great head coach.
He has. And, you're going to hear this storyline in the next 2 weeks, Skinny. The Patriots did a fabulous job of taking advantage of the easiest schedule any team has ever had en route to the Super Bowl. They had the easiest regular season slate since 1999. And then they went through at home Justin Herbert and C.J. Stroud, who is just god-awful, obviously. And then they had to beat Jarrett Stidham, a backup quarterback, in the snow, albeit on the road in Denver, a place they had never won in the postseason. And they did it. They beat Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud, and Jarrett Stidham in a row. Not exactly the gauntlet of Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen, right?
Right, but Josh Allen has had some opportunities and hasn't gotten it done. Maybe not the nice opportunity that Drake May and the Patriots got, but at the same time, man, when you're in the playoffs, it doesn't matter to me. Look, would Bo Nix have been a better option than Jarrett Stidham yesterday? Sure would have been. There's no question about it. I mean, him using his legs was probably worth at least 3 points, maybe enough to win that game. But when you line up and play, you don't all of a sudden go, hey, you start this game with 5.5 points because you don't have your quarterback. Now, maybe in Vegas you do, but not in the field. You go play and that you get who's in front of you. You also had to go on the road and win that game. As we know, playing in Mile High is not an easy place to play. And they found a way to survive it and the weather and all those things and make more plays at the end of the day. So I get it. You're not wrong. Factually, those are true numbers. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to take for what I saw. I saw a team that throughout the season was probably the best overall in the AFC, and they went out and proved it in the playoffs.
Yep, and they beat the Bengals on the way to winning the AFC. Beat them, obviously, at Paycor Stadium in the last game without Joe Burrow. I still wonder, Skinny, looking back on that game on November 23rd, I believe it was, if Burrow had played in that game and had won, do you think it would have made a difference coming down the stretch?
I do, because they obviously then followed it up with the win at Baltimore, and then you certainly would have had yourself well in the mix. We can argue the Buffalo thing was a fluky way to end, and maybe that was going to be that way anyway. But I do, to your point, I honestly do think that would have been different. And then you throw in the two close losses to the Jets and the Bears, and you would really just have yourself going like this all season long against the wall.
That's what I mean. I'm watching that game in Denver, yesterday, and I'm going, if the Bengals had only, just like I did last year, and it's stupid, and it's silly, it's ridiculous
And
to
just
play
beat New
that
England.
game, but beat New England. And, last year just beat New England to start the year at home, and you're in the playoffs. This year, beat the Jets and Bears back-to-back at home when you lead late, and then I think it's a totally different.
Well, they would have played that Cleveland game not as close to the vest as they did to protect Joe Burrow. They would have played that game completely different with a wide open throttle too.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. Okay, that is the AFC. The Patriots have made their 12th Super Bowl in franchise history. It's a remarkable number. They will face, as we mentioned, in a rematch of Super Bowl 49 out in Glendale, the Seattle Seahawks. What an entertaining game that was. And I didn't expect it to be as high scoring, though I should have, given the 1 point, I think 38-37 game that the two teams played earlier in the year in Seattle.
Yeah, but just like 3 or 4 weeks ago on a Thursday, it was a Thursday night game because I remember watching it. It was a great game.
Might have been the game of the year in the NFL.
I agree.
I mean, it's right up there. The Seahawks won it, of course, on a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. And it's why the game yesterday was played in the noise of Seattle as opposed to the comfort of SoFi Stadium. But your takeaways from that game, my biggest takeaway is what we said at the top of the program, and that is that Sam Darnold really came of age and outdueled a likely MVP in Matthew Stafford.
I don't have the stats in front of me, Mike, but Matthew Stafford became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for X number of yards per pass attempts, no turnovers. There's another stat attached to complete whatever number of passes it was. Either not get sacked or get sacked once or less, and his team loses the game. So that'll tell you how epic his performance was. And Sam Darnold played even better. And listen, he has had a propensity for, again, he failed in New York. Don't think it was his fault. He failed when it mattered in Minnesota. He didn't play great last week. Now, he played hurt, because remember last week it was the whole, he may not even play this game. They were talking about Drew Lock being the starter, and he did play, and he did just enough in the running game, and they had the Rashid Shaheed kickoff return for a touchdown, kind of set the stage, and their defense was off the charts against San Francisco, and San Francisco was beat up. But this game, Sam Darnold had to go win it. Did they get a break? Yeah, they got a break on the muffed or the fumbled punt return. That certainly helped a ton. But Sam Darnold was outstanding, and he now can look at everybody and go, I'm not a failed number one overall pick like everybody thought I was. I've now got a chance to win a Super Bowl, and I've taken a team to a Super Bowl. And as great as Joe Burrow is, and Joe Burrow is great, and I think he's got a chance to lead the Bengals to a Super Bowl in one day. Guess how many Super Bowls Sam Darnold and Joe Burrow have been in now? They've each been in one. And Drake May's the same way. They've each been in one.
Give me a winner. And why?
I'm going to go Seattle because I don't think that defense that defense, it's funny, Mike, I don't have the stat again in front of me. I did this on another show on Friday on LW because I had the stat in front of me. Seattle, I think, has now won, 12 in a row or 13 in a row. And in that span, they've given up over 300 yards twice. 2 of those 3 times are to the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have their number. Sean McVay's a great coach. They got great weapons. They got Stafford. They got Nakua. I think that Seattle defense just shuts New England down. It's a great story. It's been a fun story. They've earned everything along the way. They can call for the Warriors to come out and play again all they want. This time, if they call the Warriors to come out and play, they're not going to like the end result. I think Seattle wins by double digits because that defense is that good.
Hate it when I get interrupted in the middle of a podcast. But I will say, Skinny, that a lot of friends are wondering whether or not this will be the evil empire, the rebirth of the Patriots dynasty. I don't see it that way because I want to see more from Drake May before I start tossing out comparisons to number 12, Tom Brady. I do.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, that offensive line, especially the left side of it, has been a mess. I mean, he's been sacked, 5 times in each of the 3 playoff games he's played, and you're facing that Seattle defense that's going to probably shut your run game down, and you're going to have to turn to the pass more. I just think that's a really, really ginormous ask. But, people can say what you just said about evil empire, and we all say we hate dynasties. We can hate them, but you can't not admire them. Like yesterday, and the graphic that CBS put up was just a great graphic in my mind. Like New England was going to play in its 11th Super Bowl if it won. Denver was going to play in its 9th Super Bowl if it won. You know what that just suggests to me? Those are two damn well-run franchises. That, yeah, do you have hiccups? New England had a huge hiccup. They had a 2-4 win season hiccups. But great franchises bounce back from that stuff because they've got a plan to fix it. And both of them have done that. Denver's plan to fix it was, let's go get Sean Payton, quarterback whisperer, draft a quarterback, and let's go. And they did. And look, they drafted around it. The defense has been built great. But that's what good franchises do. That's why Denver was going for its 9th Super Bowl. That's why New England's now in its 11th Super Bowl. They're well-run franchises, and you can't not admire it.
And the commitment is the word you mentioned that sticks out to me the most, and we can get to that in just a few moments. He is Richard Skinner. We know him better as Skinny, covers the Bengals and the National Football League for Local 12 here in Cincinnati. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out the right way with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Find your community on Prize Picks with new social feeds feature. You can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. There's also early payouts, this new feature. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings, which is always a great idea, before the game even finishes. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, back with Richard Skinner of Local 12 here in Cincinnati. Skinny, you see what Jermaine Pratt had to say about the Bengals and their approach. Speaking of teams committed or not as committed to get into the Super Bowl every year.
Jermaine, how did things go for you in Vegas, and how did things go for you in the end in Indianapolis, my guy? I like Jermaine. Jermaine just needs to shut up. I mean, remember the end of the Kansas City game the one year where he, yelled at a teammate and it was Joseph Ossai just shut up. I like Jermaine. I do. He was a serviceable player for the Bengals, made one of the most iconic plays in franchise history with the, game-sealing interception against Las Vegas to snap the long playoff drought and send the Bengals on the path to go into the Super Bowl. But honestly, just shut up. But go ahead and say what he said, because I saw it and I went, dude, what are we doing?
They are not going to draft any dogs for the middle of the defensive line. I want to make sure I get this right. I'm paraphrasing, but sorry, they won't draft no dogs on the D-line is the exact quote from Jermaine Pratt. And my read on that, Skinny, is that he knows what I think a lot of people around the National Football League know, or players certainly, is that there isn't an intimidating factor in the middle of that defensive line like there are, let's say, in the two Super Bowl teams. What did the Patriots do? They went out. Their big ticket item was signing Milton Williams away from the Philadelphia Eagles. It was one of the big reasons when you pair him with the other terrific defensive lineman that they have, and that was, of course, Christian Barmore, who was very active yesterday in the AFC Championship game. Barmore and Williams, those are dogs in the middle of the line. Now, the Bengals, they have B.J. Hill and they have T.J. Slayton. Nice players, but are they dogs? What's the difference?
No, they're not. But I would tell you, if the drafts had fallen differently in the last couple of years, I think they would have taken Byron Murphy and or Walter Nolan. I do think they would have done that if things had fallen differently for them, Mike. So I do think that was on the table. The problem has been the draft hasn't fallen that way. And far be it for me to make an excuse for them, because I don't like the way they've drafted. I don't like the way they operate. I don't like a lot of things about them. But I don't think that you can't say they wouldn't. The opportunity just hasn't presented itself. So unfortunately, you're left with a Chris Jenkins. You're left with a McKinley Jackson. And listen, I know everybody wants to litigate. They should have re-signed DJ Reader. DJ Reader's coming off of a major injury. I think they probably decided, you know what? We've watched him rehab. Here's maybe the money we can give him. Detroit then swoops in and says, we'll give you this. And to his credit, DJ gave them serviceable years. Was he a dog? I don't think he was. I think he was good. He was a dog for the Bengals. So I know.
He was.
I get your, I mean, honestly though, but Jermaine, you're not in the organization anymore. They let you go after the year. You've been on 2 teams since then. Shut the F up.
Yeah, but I know he obviously has some unresolved emotions with the Bengals, right?
Everybody does with their old teams. They just do.
Yeah, they do.
He
But
was discarded.
He was discarded, and I think there's some resentment. Usually, I think players like that, Skinny, don't feel they were appreciated for what they did, and they were kind of kicked out the door. That, to me, this is my nickel and dime psychology.
I know that.
101, but that's the way I read that.
No, I get it. And listen, they don't have those type of players. That's absolutely correct. And their evaluations could be totally misproportionate. They really could be. And I think, but I don't want to relitigate this too much, but what if Byron Murphy was on the board? Do you think the Bengals take him? I think they do. What if Walter Nolan's on the board? Do I think they take him? I think they do. And when they're not, I'm not here to tell you need to skip to Shamar Stewart, for goodness sakes, but you do have to pivot, and they had to pivot, in my opinion.
All right, we're on the topic of talent and who they should have drafted, who they could have drafted, who they wound up drafting. Why not take this opportunity, Skinny, to look ahead to the 2026 NFL draft? Of course, the Bengals will be, barring a trade up or down, will be selecting 10th. And Daniel Jeremiah has an interesting mock out. So you did see it. And who he has the Bengals taking will raise some eyebrows around Jungle Land for sure. Jermod McCoy, a cornerback, that's with a C, a cornerback, a junior out of Tennessee. What's interesting, first of all, he's a corner, and the Bengals already have the likes of DJ Turner and Dax Hill. But he did not play last season. He missed the 2025 season due to an ACL. But as Jeremiah points out, his tape was outstanding. I think a lot of Bengal fans want to hear the names Reuben Bain Jr. of the national runner-up Miami Hurricanes, Jeremiah Love, the running back David Bailey, an edge out of Texas Tech, Sonny Styles, a linebacker out of Ohio State. And yes, a linebacker. I don't think you can have too many great linebackers. But the name above all that you hear mentioned for the Bengals, I think among their fan base, Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State. Which name stands out to you the most? Which one do you think the Bengals should take, and why?
Yeah, so you've got that draft in front of you, so I'm doing this from memory if I'm not mistaken. I think he has David Bailey going 6th, right?
He has David Bailey going 6th to the Cleveland Browns.
I think he's got Sonny Styles going 7.
To Washington, that is correct.
He's got Reuben Bain, I believe, going 8th.
He's got Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. Bengals are not taking a running back.
Did he have Bain
at number 8 to the Saints? And he had Bain after the Saints going 9 to Kansas City.
Yeah. So then the pick after the one, he makes the cornerback out of Tennessee, who for all accounts, is a terrific player. Number 11, he's got Caleb Downs going. There's no way the Bengals don't go Caleb Downs over a corner. I'm sorry. There's just no way. So to your point, I appreciate you can throw those other names in, but if they're gone, they're gone. There's not much you can do about it. David Bailey's an outstanding player. I don't think you dip back into the linebacker draft pool that early, Mike. You're not wrong. I think they do add. I think that's a free agent veteran add who's like a.
Sure.
I liked Spillane last year when he was on the open market. I wish the Bengals would gone and gotten him, and he's been a nice serviceable piece for New England. It's somebody like that though, who's been around, who's been on winning teams, who's probably lost a step but knows what he's doing, can probably pair with one of those kids and help bring them along. So to me, like a Robert Spillane type would be the guy I would kind of look at. I just don't think you bring another kid in and go, okay, we'll put a rookie with one of these second years guys whose heads are all spinning. But To me, when I looked at that, I like Daniel Jeremiah. I respect him a lot. I think he does great work. I literally I didn't laugh out loud. I'm like, there's no way if Caleb Downs is on the board, they're taking a cornerback ahead of Caleb Downs. There's just no way you're doing that, especially one coming off knee surgery. And knee surgery today with a full year removed, this guy could have a 10 to 12 year productive career and nobody would bat an eyelash at it. But I ain't rolling the dice on that. I'm taking a proven kid in Caleb Downs so Zach Taylor, one of his favorite players, it seems like to me, because he just talks him up
I know
all
where
the
you're
time.
going.
We talk to him, is Kyle Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton. Yep.
And Kyle Hamilton was not an upper echelon draft pick. He was in there, but he was late in a day. And to me, it's like, if you're getting a great football player, stop going, well, you can't take a safety that high. It's not a premium position. Shut up. You know what? If it's a player that you think you can do a lot of things with, and he's a winner, and he's going to make everybody else better, and that seems like all accounts. Caleb Downs to me seems like one of the more no-miss kids I've ever watched. Kyle Hamilton felt that way, but he's a safety, and so we can't take a safety so early. And he goes down the board. And finally, he lands on a really good team that knew what to do with him in Baltimore, and he's been not just injuries have cost him a little bit, as we know. He seems like he gets hurt every game, and it stinks. But when he's on the field and healthy, that dude's a difference maker. Troy Polamalu was a difference maker. Minkah Fitzpatrick was a difference maker. Safety does not have to be
Ed Reed was a difference maker.
Ed Reed was a difference maker, right? I mean, if you have that talent that's just a different guy, a difference maker that you can do a lot of pieces with, like he's going to come down and tackle the run. He's going to blitz. He's going to cover a tight end. He's going to play deep center field. I'm sorry, man. I'm getting that guy because they need that guy so bad it's not even funny.
Okay, and maybe I'm missing the obvious. When was the last time the Bengals had that player at that position? I know that the Bengals had Jesse Bates. I understand that.
He wasn't that player, but
he wasn't that
right.
player. Exactly. Thank you.
And both of us are, listen, I think we both agree Jesse Bates was a really good player, still is a really good player. He wasn't that player.
Correct. And that is the kind of player that can transform a defense. And
Yes.
That is what the Bengals desperately need, along with doing everything else that we just pointed out earlier that they need to do on defense.
No, Mike, the last guy, and I'm probably missing somebody, I don't think I am, David Fulcher.
Yeah.
Different era.
I would agree with that.
David Fulcher was a strong safety in an era of strong safeties. Now you have safeties that have to do both things, play center field. But David could play center field. Hell, David was a great pass interceptor. He wasn't just this 230-pound giant tackling machine. David had great ball skills. So, yeah, I'm going to go back 40 years, Mike. David Fulcher. So there you go. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and that is the kind of difference maker the Bengals could really use on this defense. The way I see it, I think the Bengals are probably going to have to use 3 to 4 picks at least, maybe more, on their defense.
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
And they're going to have to sign, I would say, 4 free agents on defense if they really want to be aggressive about rebuilding the whole thing. Now, they may go cheap, and I know, jokes aside about the Bengals and the front office and trying to penny pinch here and there. But if they want to be aggressive and they want to do what teams in their position have done before to turn it around quickly, that's what I see them doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, offensively, you need the following things. You need a bona fide backup swing tackle. Yep. And you need probably to add a little guard depth. You can do that in the 4th, 5th round of a draft, and you can do that certainly through free agency and signing a veteran. And so, to me, the attention for this offseason is defense, little depth on offense. That would be a perfect offseason for me. And they can do it through what they've got financially ready for them, and they can do it through the draft.
All right, let's look around the AFC North a bit, Skinny, here as we wrap it up. Your thoughts on Steeler fans, some of Steeler country losing their minds over the hiring of Mike McCarthy. You can go one of 2 ways on this, I think, in defense of him, or just being outraged that they would hire a guy whose time has passed him by, it would appear. But which way do you go?
So did the hot tub time machine come into play? Are we going to get 2010 Aaron Rodgers or 2012 Aaron Rodgers? Or are we getting today's Aaron? Which Aaron Rodgers are we getting? I mean,
I think you're. Go ahead.
No, I don't. No. So this didn't move the needle either way for me. Like, this wasn't like a wow, what a great get. And this also wasn't, gosh, you're stupid, because they're not stupid. I mean, Chuck Noll, home run. Bill Cowher, home run. For the most part, Mike Tomlin, I know it fizzled, but if you look at the overall resume, I think we'd all agree, home run. You had three hires since 1969, and you've hit it out of the park on all three. So you get a little benefit of the doubt. But he just had a quarterback and an offense and a team in Dallas that was ready to win big, and they didn't win big. Was it because of him? I don't know. Was it because Jerry didn't fill in the roster the way he should have? Maybe. But you're taking that guy on now, and he doesn't have a quarterback to boot? Like, he was pretty damn good with Aaron Rodgers. He was good in the regular season with Dak Prescott. We don't even know who the heck his quarterback's going to be. And if their best case scenario is it's a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, yeah, good luck to you guys. That's not going to work.
I think Joe Flacco winds up there.
That's a great question. It would certainly make for great symmetry, right? Like, that would give him all four. He'd check off every box. He'd get his whole bingo card in the AFC North. The thing for him is, and I think this is the decision, because this is one of the decisions I think we've all written about this offseason, like, should the Bengals re-sign Joe Flacco? The answer is yes, they should. But the ball is more in Joe Flacco's court of, does he want to re-sign? My flip to that would be, the only reason they signed Joe Flacco is because they would have drafted a quarterback in the first round, and he becomes a bridge. So how long are you the bridge? Is the bridge 3 games, 5 games, 7 games? The bridge wasn't very long in Cleveland this year, right? They quickly said, let's give this little tiny Dylan Gabriel a shot. And that didn't work out great. And so he got hurt. And let's give Shador a shot. And by the time they gave Shador a shot, he was gone. Or if you're Joe Flacco, do you sit down and realize, man, I can't play 17 games in a season. I'm going to get killed. But I can sure sit in Cincinnati behind a great quarterback with a great offense around me. And if something happens to that great quarterback and he's put us in a position to go to the playoffs, and I can be the Jarrett Stidham with more experience and a better arm and a better everything else and come in on my white horse and lead them in the playoffs to the Super Bowl, sign me up for that, man. I get competitors. I get dudes wanting to play. But do you want to be a bridge on a bad team, get the crap kicked out of you, and after 3 games they go, thanks, bridge guy, we're moving on to the rookie because we stink anyway?
Speaking of which, should the Bengals draft a quarterback to back up Joe Burrow?
Not to back him up, Mike. I think if you think you're a playoff caliber, Super Bowl run caliber team, and I do think they have a chance to be that if they have a good offseason on defense, you need a Joe Flacco type of guy, in my opinion. You need a ready-made backup that can step in and go win you games. I mean, no offense, Denver found out the hard way. The Jarrett Stidhams of the world probably are not a great place to be. Now, listen, not every team can have that. It's hard to have 2 quarterbacks. The Bengals could fall into that just because of where Flacco is in his career. As long as I think they give him a good offer and they can talk him into, do you really want to go get yourself kicked in for 3 or 4 games and then get pulled anyway? Right. When you have a chance, I mean, if we're 9-1 and Joe gets hurt, God forbid, fans, I'm just saying that's the scenario, right? Hey, you take over a playoff caliber team, dude. Wouldn't you rather do that? Or, you know what? You earn 17 game checks standing there and patting Joe on the back when he comes to the sidelines and being a sounding board, my man.
I think a sneaky good hire and keeping with the DNA of the franchise is the Baltimore Ravens hiring Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter.
I agree with that.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. You never know if a head coach is ready to be a head coach, right, until he becomes a head coach, like Mike McDonald in Seattle. He was a defensive coordinator, young guy. Was he ready to be a head coach? I don't know. There's DNA in Jesse Minter. You can argue it's Rick, his dad, who coached at UC, wasn't a great head coach. He was a damn good head coach, though. He turned out some pretty good teams in some different times and different places for UC football. And he's coached a long time. He's bounced around as an assistant. What a great sounding board for the kid to have when maybe things go wrong. Like, hey, Dad, I'm running into this issue. What do you think? I'm really super fascinated by this because, again, it's an organization that knows what it's doing. I mean, it hasn't had many coaches since it, moved from Cleveland to Baltimore either, right? They draft well, they develop well, they coach well, they hire well, all of those things. And so I'm very interested in it too because first-year head coaches. I mean, look, John Harbaugh. What did they know that they had in John Harbaugh, right? What did the Steelers know what they had in Mike Tomlin? They didn't. Correct.
He was a special teams. I don't want to say nobody, but he was a special teams unknown. Is probably a better way of putting it.
No, correct. Mike Tomlin. I mean, I remember when Mike Tomlin got hired, and I looked up his bio and go, oh, I didn't know he coached at Cincinnati. Okay, great. Okay, sure.
Speaking of teams that may not have a clue, the Cleveland Browns, Nate Schilhaas who would could pull a Zach Taylor and jump from an offensive assistant to a head coach without being an offensive coordinator at all, which to me, and I'm going to play again, psychologist here 101. I think that's one of the reasons Zach Taylor wants to hold on to play calling duties, because he loves the job of calling plays. But Nate Shieldhaas, quarterback's coach, offensive quality control with the Rams. You have Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator in Cleveland. You have Todd Monken, Anthony Lynn. Do you even think maybe Sean McDermott? I don't think he'd be interested. But of those names, and Grant Udinski is, I guess, pulled himself out of the calling for the Cleveland job. Who do you think winds up with that job?
It's a great question. Our guy Dan Pitcher interviewed for that job, and obviously didn't get very far. It doesn't sound like in the process, because his name has not really surfaced since that time frame. None of those move the needle for me, and the only reason they don't move the needle for me is that organization's a train wreck. I don't know why you would want that job if you're an established coach like Sean McDermott. And
one of 32.
Right, it's one of 32. I mean, I remember talking to Hugh Jackson when he took the job, and it was I think one of the days before, maybe the day he was walking out the door. I said, Hugh, why? And he literally goes, come on, my man, 1 of 32. I go, yeah, 1 of 32 though, but that's an uphill climb. We'll see. He's always said, we'll see. And I like Hugh a lot. I really enjoyed my time covering Hugh as coordinator. We saw it was as ugly as it could ever get. And when the cycle's been that bad for that long, you only have to point the finger inward. And they're much like the Bengals. They're not willing to point the finger inward. They're just not.
I find it fascinating that so many people around the NFL pulled the candidates, good qualified candidates, want nothing to do with that job at all.
No, it's a burial ground. I mean, you're either going to take a 70-year-old Pete Carroll who wants another paycheck, which is fine. I don't begrudge anybody that. Or an unproven guy who, again, there's nothing wrong with unproven guys either. You're unproven until you're proven, right?
Sure.
But it feels like every time they have look, Kevin Stefanski was on the street for that long before somebody said, yeah, you're a really good coach. You were in a bad place. Come down and coach us. Now, I don't know if it'll work, but it's pretty telling that another team gobbled him up that quickly when your organization decided, nah, it's your fault. Nah, it really isn't his fault.
So you working on for Local 12, Skinny?
Yeah, I'm going to look back at some of my preseason prediction columns. I did one in the preseason for the Bengals breakout player, the Pro Bowl guys I thought they'd make, my picks for the playoffs, their record. I also did one at midseason. My midseason one actually came to better fruition than the start of the season. I'm going to do that the next couple of days. I'm going to do a mock draft later in this week. So trying to find something each and every day. I did a Reds column last week, and so there's some Reds stuff to occasionally get to. By the way, I forgot to get to this point, Mike.
Yes, please do.
So I am awful to watch any game with, even when I coach high school basketball. I don't coach football, but I do feel like I know situations. And so yesterday, my youngest daughter calls from Florida. It's late in the AFC or the NFC Championship game, and I start yelling at the TV for one of the dumbest penalties I've ever witnessed in the history.
I forgot
of the
to
NFL.
bring this up.
The Reek Woolen taunting penalty. If I was his coach, I'd just saw him go to the locker room. You're done. Now, I will tell you, he was very contrite after the game and said, I can't do that. I can't be that selfish. But you were in the moment. And can we just all stop with this stuff? Just honestly, just act like you've been there
Skinny.
before.
It's this false bravado that I'm not intimidated by you. Yeah. But that's what it is. Until you change the culture, you're not going to change the behavior.
My word, that literally was. So I screamed out. I got yelled out from the other room because I was so mad. Like I wanted to reach to the TV and grab his face mask and go, "You come with me, young man, and you know what? You go to the locker room, take your stuff off, and we'll see you on Monday, and we'll figure out what the fine is." Good gracious, what a stupid play!
If that had happened at Beechwood, one of your players, they would not see the game again.
No, not a chance. Not a chance.
No.
Now, I would have had to restrain myself from doing what I just said about grabbing a face mask or grabbing a jersey.
No, you wouldn't do that. Yeah,
I wouldn't do that. But trust me, if that would have, I mean, I do. Listen, I coach AAU basketball for a fairly long time and had really good success. But and I had great kids. The kids were great. They really were. But I said, listen, I know you guys all trash talk. I get it. But I'm just going to tell you this. If you trash talk and get a technical foul, just call your mom and dad. I don't care if we're in Columbus, if we're in St. Louis, if we're in Newark. I don't care where we're playing. You call them and tell them they must come get you because you're done for the weekend. Just know that. Just understand that's the rules. Again, if you're subtle about it and you can get away with it under your breath, go ahead, my man. You do it. Rick Williams was literally out in the open, like everybody. Well, that was one of the easiest penalties for an NFL officiating crew to ever make.
They don't mind if you trash talk on the field.
Correct,
the
but
rule
not that
specifically prohibits you taunting a sideline. You cannot do that, and that's what the rule's there for. If you want to trash talk the guy face to face, and you keep it, I don't know what, civil, and it doesn't go beyond that, then the refs are going to let that go. That's not what this was.
No, and let me just tell you, can you imagine? Again, I got to give him credit. He was very contrite afterwards. Like, he realized, man, I was an idiot. How about realize it beforehand and just don't be an idiot? If that had cost his team the Super Bowl, the chance, can you just imagine what teammates would have done? They would have been great.
Kobe Bryant had a word for him. The former Bearcat. And, and I remember texting you last night during watching the game. And Kobe was none too pleased. Kobe Bryant had to be restrained a little bit by his teammates. It was stupid. Teammates.
Just stupid.
So we've gone over a lot. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think we touched on just about everything. We've got we're about a month away from the scouting. Actually, we are about a month away from the scouting combine. Senior Bowl's coming up, where Duke Tobin already talked to us, so we'll see if he talks any more down in Mobile.
He'll probably keep it more to prospects. He'll probably keep it more to the prospects and kind of what he's looking at.
That's probably right. He did his due diligence up here. We didn't have to like it.
He did.
It wasn't what we all probably hoped for and dreamed for and wanted.
It was performative, as I like to say.
You said that. I think that's the most. I've used that term in other interviews because I think that's the perfect way to describe it. It was very performative. That's well said.
I hope we were performative this evening.
We were collaborative. At least we were collaborative. At least
we were that. With those words, I'm going to let you go, Skinny.
Yep.
Be sure to follow Richard Skinner and his terrific Bengals work on local12.com. Be sure to follow my work on the Cincinnati Bengals and other Cincinnati sports on CLNS Cincy with a Y.com. By the way, I'll be traveling up to Oxford to take in the number 24 Miami and unbeaten 20-0 Miami Redhawks. They will be taking on UMass on Tuesday evening, so I'm looking forward to that. That's how I'll be spending my Tuesday evening. But be sure also to follow me on the X at Trags, Trags. Want to thank our terrific sponsor, as always, Prize Picks, and our terrific co-worker, CLNS Media. My name is Mike Petralia. He is Richard Skinner. And until next time, keep that jungle roaring.